These are the stories of Careblazers, the stories of husbands, wives, sons, and daughters whose world is forever changed since caring for their loved one with dementia. You'll hear stories of heartbreak. You'll hear stories of love. These stories are real, raw, and powerful. I hope these stories show you you're not alone, and I hope they give you some inspiration and help as you go through your caregiving journey.
Byron, thank you so much for being here today to share your story with other Careblazers. Take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and who you care for.
Well, yes, obviously, my wife and I, we've been married almost 60 years, it'll be 60 years in September, but I met her in October of 1958 at Purdue University. She was a freshman, I was a sophomore, and we ended up getting married our senior year. She was in education and I was in engineering. So we got married our senior year, and then I was going to go on to master's school or master's degree, and found out she was pregnant with our first child
Oh,
right
wow.
right about the time we graduated. So we've teased our son, who was also a Purdue graduate, that he graduated twice from Purdue. But anyhow, that's how it all started in 1958. As I said, we've been married almost 60 years now, and after college, she taught school, and I worked in the construction industry. And she did the wifey things, and I did the husband things. So we had 4 children. Children were born in 1962 and 1966 and 1970 and 1971. There's 3 boys and a girl. The girl is the second oldest, and interestingly enough, the 3 boys have voted her to be the executor and take care of all the things. But
Surprise, surprise.
she's very good. She's actually a speech pathologist. She
Oh,
has
nice.
yeah, she has a master's degree from Purdue, and she works part-time now because she has a few private clients. That's all she really does now. But she
Yeah. I'm
actually
sure she's
started.
been a help to you with your
Oh yeah, she has.
situation with
Yeah,
your wife. Yeah.
yeah, she has. She has been a big help. And anyhow, my wife's mother in 1984, probably 83, 84, somewhere along in there, we began to discover that a few things wrong with her that didn't seem right. And obviously, back then, they really didn't have a good way of diagnosing or whatever, but we pretty much determined it was Alzheimer's disease. And she actually lived 15 years with it. The last 4 or 5 years of her life, she was bedridden, and we had full-time 24-hour, 7-day-a-week care for her mother. So that kind of gave me a little idea of kind of what to watch for and what to think about. And as things progressed, uh, my wife and I had an absolutely wonderful life. We had multiple homes, lots of travel, and just really, and wonderful kids, and we even took the families on several vacations. But about, I'm going to say 2003, 2004, some things began to notice some things, and I tried and talked and suggested to my wife that we needed to go have things checked out. Well, she was obviously against that, but I had noticed a few things that I had noticed on her mother early on. So we finally, in 2005, I convinced her to go to Washington University School of Medicine there in St. Louis, which is where
Yeah.
our working life was, in the St. Louis area. And they're head of the neurology department, and they gave her that little MIME test or whatever you call it, and she passed it with flying colors. So for the
Mhm.
next couple of years, I heard "I told you so." There, there's nothing, and
It
the whole
probably wasn't
thing.
the first
Yeah,
time you heard that in your
but
marriage.
uh, so then I kept very alert with what I was my thinking, and by 2013 or 14, which is 6 or 8 years later, I had really begun to notice some really things that were getting by her, things that you really don't think about, but like following recipes. She'd leave things out of a recipe,
Mm.
or I'd find things in strange places, and her purse was missing half the time, and she couldn't
So
balance her checkbook anymore. So that
When
was
you
in,
initially took her though, and they gave her the mini test, like they
yeah.
didn't do any further testing, give her more
No,
comprehensive
no,
testing or
they
investigate at
just
all. They
said,
just said
yeah,
she's fine.
yeah, she's
Okay.
fine. No,
Okay.
don't worry about it. And so that's what I said. I just kept alert to the whole thing. And finally,
Okay.
about, as I said, in 2014, 13, 14, I began to notice these things. And finally, by 2016, I had convinced her that we needed to go have her tested again.
Mm.
Well, we went in and again to Washington University School of Neurology and the head of the department, and he gave her a test and basically gave her the same kind of test they'd given her 10 years earlier. Said, "Oh my, look here, look at the difference between what you did then and what you did now." So
Hmm.
I was very happy that we had that past test to go on, but she was significantly worse than in 2005. So Dr. Music, who was the doctor there at Washington University, said, "I want to give her an MRI test to make sure there's nothing else wrong with the brain." And then he talked to us about an IDEA study. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but it's a imaging dementia evidence for amyloid scanning. And it was actually I guess a clinical trial by the Alzheimer's Association,
Hmm.
the federal government, and the people that made the machines. And they
Wow.
inject the dye into your bloodstream, and then they do a PET scan, and they can actually see the beta amyloids and the tau tangles in your brain, so they can diagnose it as Alzheimer's. Well, he got us enrolled in that study. We went there in August, and then in December, because we were going back and forth to Florida, so in December we had our IDEA study and the PET scan. And then the following August is when we got the word, yes, it absolutely is Alzheimer's. This is what you can
Mm.
expect and the whole thing. And I said, "Well, doctor, we're familiar enough with that we know where we're going and what we're going to do." And that's really the last we've talked to Dr. Music. He doesn't take care of patients. He just diagnosed. And so we
Hmm.
definitely know that it's Alzheimer's disease. And in my mind now, she's in it, almost 20 years. And when you read about it, you find out that it shows up, it's in your brain 20 years before you even know it's there. So we've kind of
Right.
followed the procedure. So
Yeah. So how did she take the news?
not well. Obviously, very concerned about what she'd seen with her mother, and the
Right.
Dr. Music told her. They said, "You don't have to worry about it. It's very slow progressing, and you're not going to be in the same shape your mom. You're really healthy." And interestingly enough, we in the early '80s we went down to Texas to the I can't think of the name of it now. Down in Texas to the Institute on Nutrition and Exercise. And so since the early '80s, we've been eating right and we've been
Oh,
exercising
wow.
regularly and doing all this. And so I was actually shocked that my wife got it. And we've been eating and doing the same thing for 35, 40 years, but it's
Right.
just,
I mean, it could be a genetic thing. Who knows with her?
well, it
Not
could be,
sure.
yeah, very well
Yeah.
could be, since her mother had actually, she had two of her mother's sisters both had it. Not
Mm-hmm.
nearly as bad as mom, but they had it before they died. They were older and they died before that, but
Yeah.
they both
Talk
had
a
very.
little talk a little bit about you mentioned the nutrition place. Like what is you and your wife's diet and kind of lifestyle and trying to keep
Well,
healthy? What do you guys do?
yeah, part of being a caregiver is, of course, my wife can no longer cook, so I do all the cooking, and I enjoy it. I really studied hard and try to be a good chef, but that doesn't always work. But we only eat grass-fed beef. We don't eat any red meats. Eat a lot of fish. Obviously, living down here in Florida, a lot of chicken. Lots of green vegetables and lots of lettuce and green leaf things and very actually we I had read a book from Dr. Dale Bresden from
Yeah.
California, The End of Alzheimer's. So I called
Right.
his office and talked to him about
Oh.
it, and come to find out that I asked him about having a functional medicine doctor down here in Marco Island. And he said, "Well, interestingly enough, there is one of our practitioners down there. Turns out it's a doctor that I've known for years." And
What?
she went from being a normal internist to being a functional medicine doctor. So we started going to her right after we got the diagnosis, and that of course we did away with all the sugar and all the flour and
Yeah.
did everything that we were supposed to do to try to slow down the disease, which I think we did. I think we did pretty well. But as I said, we've been eating well. I try to get her to exercise at least 3 or 4 days a week. And when she's not exercising, I have some exercises that I do just for my own care. And so I think we're doing the right thing. But I finally got to the point after about 3 years of being the Simon Legree, say, you can't have this cookie, you can't have the ice cream, you can't do this. I said, she's kind of in towards the end. Don't be that way. So now, I give in to her and we have sugar, but still try to eat gluten-free and lots of fruits and vegetables and lots of green leaf things. So
it sounds like you have done a lot of thought and research and taken a lot of action for you and your wife's health throughout the years. And even now, and you're doing it in a way that's really thoughtful, just in terms of weighing the balance and quality of life and considering all that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I did. I started reading and trying to get my hands on anything I could find, and I read, I don't know how many books I read, how many videos I've watched, how many things, but I will say that, your Careblazer videos are really, really good and very helpful. I enjoy those a lot, and I go back and relook at some of them, and then if I'm having a particular problem, I look for one that talks about my problem, and and we're very fortunate. We're financially able to take care of things. One of the real things that people have trouble with is driving.
Yeah.
And my lawyer told me, so Byron, when your wife's been diagnosed with Alzheimer, she said, well, you better let the Department of Transportation know, because if there was an accident and you hadn't told them about it, and they gave her a driver's license, and so, okay, all right. So I called the Florida Department of Transportation, and I thought, I wasn't sure what they would do about it. Well, they said, well, her driver's license is about to expire. She needs to come in for a test. And normally down in Florida, you just sign the papers and you get your driver's license. Well, they made her do the written test. And we went to a special place, and they tried to get her to do the written test. Well, she couldn't understand it. She said, well, I know what the signs mean, but I just can't tell them. And so they wouldn't pass her. So she hasn't had a driver's license since 2018, which has been good from my standpoint. So
the only reason, though, they gave her that written test is because you gave them a heads up ahead of time. Otherwise, they probably would have just, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, she'd have walked in, signed her name, and got a driver's license. So
interesting.
So
how did she adjust to that loss of not being able to drive?
It was very difficult at the very beginning. She had her little red convertible, and she had, these nice things, and down here in Florida, and she was really devastated about it. But she got over it pretty quickly, and I sold the car, and so. And she's, like I said, it's been 3 years now. She hasn't driven, so it's been a relief not to have to worry about taking the keys away from her. And as I said, I started reading about this, and since Mom had died, we have been a very big supporter of the Alzheimer's Association in St. Louis. My son even served on the board. One of my sons served on the board there, so I've gotten lots of information, lots of help from them. But I'm, a little disappointed in the Alzheimer's Association, and they spend most of their time raising money. And I understand why they do that, because they're trying to do research and stuff, but they do have a lot of help. Some of it now, I think, is beyond me. I mean, I'm way past where they're at on a lot of things, but it's good. And I just, trying to do what was right, redid all of our legal work, and we had already had our wills and stuff done, and so I called my lawyer down here and said, hey, I said, my wife's got Alzheimer's disease. We need to come in and change all these. And so we went in and changed some trusts and changed some documents, and had our daughter's name put on all our legal documents, and she's the I obviously have the health things and everything that we need. So we're in good shape and don't have to.
Did you do that pretty early on in the diagnosis? Like initially?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Yeah. As soon as I got the official diagnosis, as I said, we'd already done done the paperwork before we got the diagnosis. So I went back to my lawyer and said, look, here's the situation. Janice is no longer going to be. So right now she's okay to sign papers, but I said, who knows how long it's going to be. So we went through and redid all the things and took her name off a lot of things and did it that way.
How did you know to do that? Did anybody recommend that to you? Did you just come across it in research, or did you just know instinctively, like, we need to do this?
I think it's more instinctively, and of course, reading all the books that I've read. They talk about legal work and that sort of stuff, and so
yeah.
So anyhow, our children have been really, really good through this whole thing. And they I love to fish, living down here in Florida, and that's been my hunting and fishing has been my passion for years and years and years. And they said, Dad, anytime you get a chance to go on a fishing trip or a hunting trip, you let us know. And one of us will come down there and take care of Mom. And so they fly either from St. Louis or Charlotte or Houston, where the kids are. And so they've been, I really can't complain about that. The children have been wonderful, and they call quite often to talk to Mom. She's still,
that's great.
Still, I would say, sociably active. She can still carry on a conversation. You don't know how much they understand or how much they know. And still can watch television, but I don't think she really understands the program. But it's time consuming, and I'm very fortunate. I've got long-term care insurance. And my advisors told me to get that some time ago, and it turned out to be a great company. Unum was the company that I use, and it kicked in October of 2020, and so I now have help 5 days a week in the afternoons. 4 to 6 hours each day, 5 days a week. The weekends are mine. But
so how did your wife respond to that, getting help in the home?
She was kind of not really for it to begin with. And the lady we got, my long-term care insurance had a year exclusion. So I had to have somebody for once a week for a year before it actually kicked in. So we got this lady almost 2 years ago. She happens to be a registered nurse, a widow lady, lives here on the island, not very far from us, and just a perfect fit. And so that's worked out real well. And the second lady we knew previously for the last 20 years or so, and I convinced her to go up and sign up with Visiting Angels. So I do it through Visiting Angels. So the two ladies are both well known. And I don't know what's going to happen when I have to expand the service, but I'm about to the point where trying to get somebody on the weekends just to make it easier.
So what are your biggest challenges when it comes to your wife with dementia at this point?
Well, the 2 or 3 things that come to mind. One is you've had other people talk about it. She doesn't know who I am. I mean, we'll get up in the morning and I always fix breakfast every morning. I ask her what she wants. Do you want pancakes? Do you want waffles? Do you want eggs? And so, sometimes she decides and sometimes she doesn't. So I'll fix her breakfast and she'll sit down to eat breakfast and she'll look right at me and say, do you know where Byron is? Where'd he go? And I say, well, I really don't know, but he'll show up when it's necessary. And, we talk about that sort of thing. So that's a tough one. And it doesn't go away, but I don't know who she thinks I am. But when she doesn't, and I think what she's doing, it's a long-term memory. She's looking for a guy with a crew cut, a whole lot younger than 82 years old. So, and the other tough thing is she's always wanting to go home. Like I said, we have multiple homes over the years, but right now she's stuck on where we lived in Illinois, a beautiful home up on the hillside overlooking the river. And I think that's what she has in mind. But I keep telling her, it's not there anymore. The kids aren't there anymore. None of the kids are in Illinois. And so I try to talk her out of that. And the other thing is there's always extra people here. There's always, whether it's the kids or whether it's the neighbors, but there's always seems to be, I ask her to set the table for me and she'll say, how many? I'll say 2. She'll set it for 4. And we'll know where the rest of them are. And when did they leave? They didn't tell me they were going. Well, do you have any idea where they are? And those are the real challenging things. And she's, she's very, very friendly, and she doesn't get mean. She's still sleeping good, sleeping through the night. I think a little bit of incontinence, but we're working our way through that. So that's just, I've what I would say, I've Alzheimer proofed the house. I've got special door locks on the doors that she can't open. I'll lock the door at night. So if she should get up in the middle of the night, she can't get out of the house. And she's got an
Has she
Apple
ever
Watch.
tried to wander away before?
A couple times with the caregivers, but what she tells them, she's looking for me. So she'll go down. We live in a condominium. We're on the third floor of this condominium. There's actually only 4 units in the building. And there's no neighbors, and we're here 75% of the time by ourselves. And we've only been in the condo a few years. We had a home here on the island for many, many years, but I sold that, moved into the condo. I'm glad I did. But so she's looking for me when I'm gone. The caregivers are here, so they'll follow her down. And once in a while, she gets out of the house. There's no way she can remember the codes and numbers to get in, or even have a key. It would she can't keep track of her key. So if she gets out of the building, then she can't get back in. So that's important to keep track of. I bought her an Apple Watch to wear. She can't really tell time, but it's got the GPS on it. So if she does wander, I can get on my phone and find out where she is. I've called the police and told them about it. And so we made all the necessary preparations. I've got some blink cameras in the house, and so I think I'm ready.
Yeah, you've done a lot of preparation ahead of time. Like a lot of times I feel like maybe sometimes people wait for the awful thing to happen before they put some of these things in place, and you've kind of set it up ahead of time. So that's great. So I'm curious, Byron, because you're a member of my care course, and a lot of people who join my care course are completely overwhelmed. Like they are just totally stressed and like they're at their wits' end. And you seem to me like you have it all together. So I'm wondering what got you to join?
Well, actually, what got me to join is I watched some of your videos, and I liked what you were saying. And I thought, well, I want to get as much of this as I can. I can't tell you how much money I've spent on other groups. And, I see somebody on educational TV, and they're for $350, you get their set up, or you do this. So I've paid, several $100s for different things. And when I first saw your videos, I thought, I think she knows what she's talking about. I want to get a little closer to her. So that's what when something comes out, I'm not going to worry about spending $250 or $300 or whatever the number is. I want to find out about it. And,
so for you, it was more just like educating yourself, preparing yourself. It wasn't like I absolutely need something. That makes total sense. So because you're somebody who has taken advantage of, you've read a lot, you've taken other programs, you've done things. Are there things you've come across besides my stuff that's been super helpful that you think other Careblazers might benefit from?
Well, I think there's other people out there. I'm sure you're familiar with them. The two that come to my mind besides you are Teepa Snow and Dr. Tam Cummings. Both of them have worthwhile things to look at. I haven't gotten in depth with them the way I have with you, but they do have interesting stuff out there. As I said, and there's lots of books. I mean, there's just all kinds of different books. Different people have written the books about things, and as I mentioned, Dr. Bresden, and I think he helped us a lot for the first few years, but we're beyond that now, and I know that the kind of dementia my wife has is not reversible. There's nothing you can really do about it, and as I said, there's other books out there. There seems to be there's a whole lot more now than there was 5 years ago. It really is. It's coming on strong, and a lot of people are paying attention to things. And so anytime I see a new book, I'll pick it up and read it. If the kids find something, they'll send it to me. And,
Oh, that's
it doesn't
nice.
have to be a book either. It can be on the internet. It can be, a newsletter. I subscribe to, gosh, I don't know. I'm going to say the Boston General and the Harvard and the New York Science. I mean, I've subscribed to a whole bunch of different newsletters, trying to read as much as I could. And as I said, there's a ton of information out there. Some of it is they're arguing with each other, but most of it is pretty good, worthwhile.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. That's great. I was going to ask you, like I ask all the Careblazers I interview, like, what do you do for self-care? And I think you've mentioned some of it already, just in passing, in terms of you have visiting angels come by. And so they, help out with
yeah.
watching your wife. But I think you said something like, the weekends are mine, or you like to hunt and fish. Like, talk to us a little bit more in detail
Well,
about what you
yes,
do to care for
yeah.
yourself.
My typical week, living down here in Florida, my typical week is I'll maybe go fishing at least one day a week or twice a week. Well, and down here in Florida, I usually fish the early morning, late evening. Well, I can't do that. I just have to fish when I get an opportunity. And people say, "What kind of fish you catch?" Well, I really don't care about catching fish. I'm going out in a boat and I sit there and meditate, and just have a good time. It's my time, whether it's fishing or not, but I call it fishing. And then we have a shooting range not too far from here. And usually one afternoon a week, I'll go down and shoot sporting clays or something like that, usually by myself. Sometimes I'm with other guys. And the visiting angels ladies gives me time to go do whatever I need to do. And I have an exercise routine that I do 3 days a week. It takes about an hour of my own, and again, it's physical. I want to keep my body in good shape, so yeah, I have time, but it's still very stressful. I mean, it's unbelievable. I said I was in the construction business, and I ran a multi-million-dollar operations for years and years and years, and the stress of making a $10 million decision isn't anything like the stress of making a decision about your loved one. And it doesn't go away. And I think that's the hardest part, Natalie, is that you know what the end of this is. You just don't know when it's coming. And that stress in by itself makes you wonder, oh, geez, what are we going to do next? And how do we handle this? And so the other thing I've noticed is that with increased stress, my temper's a lot shorter. I get mad at myself, trying to do something, make a mistake, and then you have to be careful or the words start flowing. And thank gosh, I've got a great religious background, and that gives me a lot of peace. And it's really, I mean, I fall back on that a lot. It really helps me. And I feel sorry for people that don't. I'm not trying to force them into anything, but it sure helps me.
Yeah.
So.
And you said something that I think would be easy to miss that I think is really important. You mentioned, most people go fishing in the evening or the early mornings, but you go in the middle of the day whenever you have a chance. And I think that's a really important thing to highlight, because there's opportunity for self-care, but it might not be ideal. It might not be perfectly timed. It might not be perfectly scheduled, but you're finding a way to work it in. And you could focus on how you can't do it when all the fish are biting, or, when the weather's better, right? But you found a way to do it anyway. And I think that's a key takeaway that I hope Careblazers will pick up on when they hear this.
I think it's very important. And as I said, it's not the quality time you once had, but it's still quality time.
Right. Yeah. Better than nothing, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the other key takeaways, like, you've given a lot of gems just in terms of like getting the legal stuff in order as quickly as possible. Researching, educating yourself. I'm curious, what prompted you and your wife to get involved with the Institute in Texas for health and food and all that?
Yeah, there was a Dr. Cooper Institute, and I was involved in a National Construction Association, and Dr. Cooper came and spoke to us, and he made the comment about a treadmill stress test.
Oh yeah.
And I said, well, I went up afterwards, and when he spoke to us, he said, well, Dr. Cooper, my doctor won't give me a stress test treadmill. He said, well, come down to my clinic and we will. I said, okay. So I made the appointment for my wife, and I went down there. It was I think in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And that not only do they give you this, I mean, a complete physical, the stress test on the treadmill, and then they send you to the nutritionist, they send you to the dentist, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they check for throat cancer, they check everything, and the nutritionist goes over lots of things, and then we end up going from that nutritionist to one in California that they recommended, and so that started us on our what I thought was a healthy journey. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you've taken advantage because I mean, I would venture to guess of all the people who listen to that guy come and talk, that doctor come and talk to you, how many followed up on a stress test and a physical and all that. I'm guessing a minority of people.
yeah, I don't know if there were that many or not, but
Right.
turned out that our association of Dr. Cooper ended up with uh, a long-standing relationship for years and years and years. So I'm sure there was other people that took it besides me, but I just felt like I was in my prime, running a business and raising family and the whole bit. That I want to make sure I was healthy. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then I know you, so Tipa Snow, I think a lot of people who know me probably know her. Who is the other one? Cummings. What was the first name?
Tam, Tam Cummings.
TAM. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be sure to link to. Is she on
Yeah,
YouTube?
she's got a website, Dr. Cummings,
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Tam Cummings, and she has an introductory video. I think it's about an hour and a half, explaining Alzheimer's. And I thought it was
Ah,
good. It was a good video. It was a good video.
okay.
Now, obviously, there's other things on both Teepa Snow and Tam Cummings. Some of it's free, some of it you have to buy. I have to say, I
Mhm.
have not bought anything other than a
Okay.
book or two from the others, but I
Okay.
haven't joined them. But they seem to have good information.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Tipa Snow. I've watched some of her stuff. She seems to be really good, and a lot of Careblazers really love her.
Yeah, well,
But
she's a little bit different in her the way she goes about things, the way she says
yeah,
things. And
yeah,
that's not good, not to say good or bad, but she
yeah,
certainly doesn't have the same personality you have. So
yeah. And I think that's what makes the world interesting. We all have our
yep,
own different personalities. Otherwise, it'd be really boring. There's
yeah,
some people who can't stand me and love her, and vice versa.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
love it. I love that there's all these different people. So, okay, that's great. So, Byron, what is top recommendation piece of advice you would give to other Careblazers who are currently struggling? And maybe they like, I feel like you're kind of a goal to get to, maybe, like the way you've kind of figured things out. But like, what would you say for somebody who's struggling and maybe striving to make things a little bit better, a little bit easier?
Well, I guess the thing you have to look at is you have to take one day at a time. Each day is a new day, and this too shall pass. You have to just have to go through it that way. As I said earlier, read everything you can read. Use some of your downtime to go sit in the corner and read a book, and read about what you need to know and that sort of stuff. Stay socially connected. I mean, that's one of the hardest things for caregivers is to not be socially connected. You need your friends. You need to be able to associate with other people. My wife and I she loves to dance. Every Friday night we go to the country club. Even though our club right now is going through fierce remodeling, they got a little bitty dining room and with entertainment on Friday night. We go and dance the night away on Friday night.
Oh,
Now,
that's beautiful.
that doesn't mean she's going to remember it on Saturday morning, but Friday night she's sure enjoying it. And
Right.
so we do that, and as I said, read and learn, stay socially connected, and for God's sakes, don't turn down help. If
Oh,
somebody offers to do something, they usually make a general offer, say, well, let me know if there's anything I can do. And what you need to figure out is, yeah, well, sure, Sally, come on over on Sunday afternoon and spend 2 hours with Janice while I go do something. So you have to do that. With this last Sunday, a good friend of mine, her husband's got Alzheimer's, a little worse off than Janice. He can't talk. And so I called her and said, let's sit down and talk. Let's commiserate a little bit, see what we can. So we sat down and had about an hour's worth of conversation. Sunday afternoon, we took our two spouses and went over to the community park and played bocce ball. Now, they didn't play
Oh,
bocce ball the way you're supposed to, but at least, by golly, they were out there tossing the ball around, and we were out there for like an hour and a half. And
mm,
Susan, who's the gal, a friend of mine, she said, I hate weekends. She has help during the week, but she said her husband can't talk. She said, I end up talking to myself on weekends. And that's why I said,
mm.
let's try this, see what we can do. So we'll probably do a
Oh,
little bit more of that. So,
oh,
and
that's awesome.
COVID changed things. There's no such thing as a health group, and uh, uh, a care group or a support group on a computer is pretty tough. I don't even try it. So
Right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all this. I mean, you truly are an inspiration in terms of how it is possible to like care for yourself and to prioritize what you need and to put things in order and just your mentality and faith and things that keep you going and taking it one day at a time. It's really uplifting and nice to hear. And also, just like you're putting in the work, you're trying to learn and educate yourself on everything that you can. And I think it's just really great. I'm so thankful that you're decided to share your story with all of us.
well, again, I must express my gratitude to you and how wonderful your videos have been and how much help they've been to me. And I'm going to keep watching them.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that they've helped. Anything that I haven't asked about or anything else you want to share that maybe we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered it all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Byron, for sharing your story and for taking your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.